In this video, we're going to be taking a look at adding and subtracting money, and the essential question that we are going to answer is how can the strategy make a table help you organize and keep track of your bank account balance? Now you will need to turn to page 147 in your Go Math book, and we will work through this problem. Now, the first thing we need to do, obviously, whenever we are looking at a problem is you have to read the problem. So let's read that problem together. It says, at the end of May, Mrs. Freeman had an account balance of $442.37. Since then, she has written a check for $63.92 and made a deposit of $350. Mrs. Freeman says she has $729.45 in her account. Make a table to determine if Mrs. Freeman is correct. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out a couple answers to a few questions. Okay, so it says, what do I need to find? What information do I need to use? And how will I use the information? So, first of all, what do we need to find? We can see that what we need to find is if Mrs. Freeman's checkbook balance is correct. So I want you to write that on page 147 on what I need to find. So it's always important to understand what you need to find first. Without knowing what you need to find, you're not going to be able to solve the problem. Now, the information that you're going to use, what we will use, and I want you to write this down, the starting account balance, the amount of the deposit, and the amount of the check. Okay, so we first of all see the starting account balance, $442.37, the amount of the deposit, $350, and the amount of the check, $63.92. Now, once we have figured out what we need to find, the information we are going to use, the final question we need to figure out is how are we going to make a table and use the information? Okay, how are you going to use that information? So, I want you to write this down. I will need to make a table and use the information to subtract the amount of the check and add the amount of the deposit to find the correct balance. So let's write all of these answers down in your Go Math book on page 147. Okay, thinking about everything that we have talked about and so on, first of all, we can see that this is Mrs. Freeman's checkbook. We have the May balance. The check that we talked about, $63.92. I missed something here. $442.37. Where is that number coming from? That was the account balance at the end of May. Okay, so $63.92. What that determines, remember, that was the check that was written. Okay, so you subtract that from the original account balance right here. All right, and then we can see if we take $442.37, and I want you to write it in right off to the side, and we could subtract together. Okay, so we have $442.37. I'm going to subtract $63.92 from that. So we take 7/100 minus 2/100 is 5/100. You cannot take 9/10 from 3/10, so we will regroup. Okay, now 13/10 minus 9/10 is 4. We drop our decimal point down. Cannot take 3 ones away from 1. Okay, so we need to regroup. Now 11 minus 3 gives us 8. We cannot take 6 from 3, and that's actually 60 from 30. That does not work. So we need to borrow 100 and bring it over. So 13 tens minus 6 tens is going to give us 7 tens, and 300 minus 0 is 3. Okay, so we can see $378.45. And let's write this in our checkbook here, showing the current balance, $378.45. And then now we're going to add. And why are we going to add? Because we know that there was a deposit made. Whenever there's a deposit made, that means something is being added to the checkbook, which is a really good thing. So $378.45, we're going to add that $350. Okay, I'll use a different color of ink here. $350. And I'm just going to put my decimal point, my 2 zeros at the end here. Okay, so we add all of this. 5 and 0 is 5. 4 plus 0 is 4. Remember to drop that decimal point down. 8 and 0 is 8. 7 plus 5 is 12. Carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 3 is 7. So we have $728.45. Okay, so you can see we just added this 350. Okay, so we have a total in the checking account $728.45. Then from here we can write Mrs. Freeman's correct balance is $728.45. Okay, so we can see that Mrs. Freeman, even though she said she had $729.45, we can see that she's actually off by $1. Okay, it's very important whenever you have a checkbook that you do keep a correct balance, because without doing that, you may write a check and not have enough funds, which could equal bank charges and things like that. So very, very important to understand how to do this. Okay, what I want you to do is read through this problem, and we are going to take a look at what we need to find, the information that we're going to use, and also how we are going to use the information. So read through this problem. Nick is buying juice for himself and 5 friends. Each bottle of juice costs $1.25. How much does 6 bottles of juice cost? Make a table to find the cost of 6 bottles of juice. Okay, first of all, what do we need to find? And I want you to write it in your book on page 148. I need to find how much 6 bottles of juice will cost. And where did I get that information from? I just simply look at the question, how much does 6 bottles of juice cost? So this helps me really focus in on what I need to figure out. Now the next question, what information do I need to use? I need to use the price of each bottle and the number of bottles being bought. So we know that the price of each bottle is $1.25. And how many bottles are being bought? 6 bottles. So that's the information we will need to use. Okay, so how are we going to use this information? So in this problem, I want you to write down, I will make a table and then add the amount per bottle until I find the cost of 6 bottles of juice. So let's take a look at this problem. Let's make this table and we'll solve it together. Okay, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to make a table, left-hand side, label it bottles of juice, right-hand side, total, and then after that I want you to write in the numbers with sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can see I have 2 extra sections here. I'm not going to worry about that too much. Okay, so 2 extra sections, I'll just kind of erase that here. Okay, so I want you to make a table with 6 sections there, and I erase those extra sections now, and we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now what we can see the price after we have done that, what we can see the price for 6 bottles of juice, first of all, $1.25 for the first one, and then after that we can add $1.25 to our $1.25, giving us $2.50 for 2. Then for the next one, you can just add $1.25 for this next one, giving you $3.75. Then after that, for the fourth one, $5. And then add another $1.25, $6.25. And then for the sixth one, a total of $7.50. Okay, now moving down to the answer, I have to erase some of this here. Now we can see, so the total of 6 bottles of juice is $7.50. So moving on down, we can see that what if Ginny says that 12 bottles of juice cost $25? Is Ginny's statement reasonable? Okay, so we can see right away that 12 is 2 times, or 2 sixes would give us 12. Okay, and then taking $7.50 and adding that again, that's $15. So that would not be a reasonable statement. Now I want you to work through this problem at your seat all by yourself. When you're finished with this problem, I will have the answer for you. I'm going to show you what your table might look like. And when you're finished, you can press play, and then we'll move on from here. So pause the video now. Okay, so here are some possible answers that could help you out with this. And make sure that some of your possibilities are matching mine. Okay, so as you can see, making a table makes this a lot more organized, and we can see the answers a little bit easier. Okay, now what I want you to do is work through this problem at your seat all by yourself. When you're finished, you can press play, and I will have the answer for you. Now your table may look a little bit different, so I will just have your answer and make sure that you understand how a table can help you out and so on. I still do want you to draw a table, so pause the video now. Okay, so you can see here that the answer is $6.25. Okay, I want you to work through this test prep problem at the bottom of page 150. When you're finished, you can press play. I will have the answer for you. So pause the video now. Okay, the answer is letter B. And moving to the end of the video, looking at the essential question, how can a strategy make a table help you organize and keep track of your bank account balance? You can use a table to record balances, add deposits, and subtract checks. So if you have any questions about adding and subtracting money and story problems and creating a table, please come and see me.